Balikatan has stood as a living testament to the partnership between the Philippines and the United States.
In the Philippines, the largest ever shoulder-to-shoulder joint military exercises are underway. It marks a major expansion of U.S. alliances in the Indo-Pacific.
On a windswept beach in northern Luzon, the sky cracked open with rocket fire. It was the morning of May 4th, 2026. The place was La Paz Sand Dunes, just outside the city of Laoag in Ilocos Norte. From an observation tent, military officials and international guests watched as missiles streaked across the dunes towards simulated targets out at sea. This was no ordinary drill. More than 800 troops from 4 nations, the Philippines, the United States, Japan, and Canada, had come together to rehearse one of the hardest jobs in modern warfare, stopping an enemy from landing on your shore. The exercise was called the Counter-Landing Live Fire Exercise North. It was one of the biggest events of Balikatan 2026, the yearly military drill between the Philippines and the US. And for many people watching, it was the clearest sign yet that the rules of security in the Indo-Pacific are changing. The drill played out like a story with a clear plot. Imagine the worst day for the Philippines. Enemy ships are racing toward the coast. Landing craft full of soldiers are about to crash onto the beach. What do? The answer, as practiced on May 4th, was to fight back in layers. Far away first, then closer in, then right at the water's edge. The first punch came from the air and from rocket trucks. Philippine Air Force A-29 Super Tucano planes and T-129 attack helicopters joined U.S. high-mobility artillery rocket systems, better known as HIMARS, to strike the simulated enemy boats while they were still far offshore. At the same time, a Philippine Navy patrol gunboat fired simulated anti-ship missiles. When the mock landing craft pushed closer to shore, the second wave of fire opened up. U.S. F-16 Fighting Falcons screamed in low. AH-64 Apache attack helicopters and unmanned aircraft engaged from above. Then came the final stand. Soldiers and Marines from all 4 countries took positions in the sand and unleashed a wall of fire. Howitzers, mortars, stingers, machine guns. The targets were destroyed. The beachhead was held. This exercise showcases the lethality of our combined joint force when empowered by a modern command and control network. Real advantage was being able to see the entire battle space on a single pane of glass, alongside Philippine partners.
Shoulder to shoulder, we trust with purpose and with resolve. We are always stronger. And so, with the confidence in our forces and with a deep respect for the partnership that we have built and strengthened through the years, I hereby declare Exercise Balikatan 41-2026.
The drill showed a growing capability to defend Philippine shores through a multi-layered, joint, and combined approach, integrating land, sea, and air assets to destroy threats before they ever reach the coastline.
NMESIS system is an autonomous missile system that is used for shoreline security and sea denial. It's essentially just to help with protection of our straits and
What made this drill different from past years was who stood in the sand. According to Stars and Stripes, the force on May 4th included around 700 US soldiers and Marines, about 250 Philippine troops, 60 members of Japan's Amphibious Rapid Deployment Brigade, and 50 Canadian forces. The Philippine side brought soldiers from the 503rd Brigade, Marines from the 4th Marine Brigade, airmen from the 15th Air Wing, sailors from a Navy patrol gunboat, and Coast Guardsmen on patrol boats. From the U.S. came units of the 25th Infantry Division, including its artillery, aviation, and medical brigades, along with Marines from the 3rd Littoral Combat Team, and airmen from the 120th Expeditionary Fighter Squadron. Japan sent troops from the 2nd Amphibious Rapid Deployment Regiment. Canada sent soldiers from the 3rd Battalion Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. For Japan, this moment carried real history. According to the Japan Times, this was the first time since the end of World War II that Japanese combat-capable troops had returned to the Philippines as close partners, not as occupiers. About 1,400 Self-Defense Force personnel were sent for the wider Balikatan drills. Operating together in realistic conditions strengthens our ability to integrate effectively, enhances collective readiness, and underscores Canada's role in supporting regional stability. To understand why a beach exercise drew so much attention, you have to look at a map. Loag and the La Paz sand dunes sit on the northwestern coast of Luzon, facing the South China Sea. The training ground is about 50 miles from the Luzon Strait, the body of water between the Philippines and Taiwan. It is roughly 100 miles south of Taiwan itself, and very close to the Bashi Channel, a passage that ships and submarines use to move between the South China Sea and the wider Pacific. In other words, this stretch of beach sits at the edge of one of the most important crossroads in modern geopolitics. That is no accident. Balikatan 2026 ran from April 20th to May 8th across many parts of the country, including northern Luzon, Palawan, the Visayas, and eastern Mindanao. But the 41st iteration of the exercise put a clear focus on the north, close to Taiwan and close to the South China Sea. As the South China Morning Post reported, this year's edition featured an unprecedented level of participation from Japan and took place in areas facing the South China Sea and Taiwan, including Luzon. The Manila Times reported that the armed forces of the Philippines confirmed the drill sites were strategically situated to heighten awareness in the West Philippine Sea. At the same time, the AFP stressed the exercises do not target any country and are not preparation for a foreign invasion. By any measure, this year's drill was historic. The Diplomat reported that Balikatan 2026 brought together more than 17,000 troops from 7 nations: the Philippines, the United States, Australia, Canada, France, Japan, and New Zealand. Another 17 nations joined as observers. 4 of those countries, Canada, France, New Zealand, and Japan, joined as active participants for the first time. That growth reflects new agreements the Philippines has signed in recent years. Manila now has a reciprocal access agreement with Japan, which took effect in September 2025, plus similar deals with New Zealand, Canada, and France. Balikatan is also about something larger. In the big scheme of things, our highest duty is to deter. For those of us that have served in conflict and served in combat, that's really what it's about: deterring war. The best way to do that is to be ready. The drill showed off serious firepower. The Manila Times reported integrated firepower including HIMARS rocket systems, Apache longbow attack helicopters, and 105mm howitzers. Earlier in the exercise, the U.S. Marines also deployed the Navy Marine Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System, or NMESIS, near the Luzon Strait. According to USNI News, missiles fired from these Marine and Army launchers can reach targets between 115 and 310 miles away, enough to cover much of the water between Luzon and the southern tip of Taiwan. But the drill was also honest about what is hard. Stars and Stripes reported that during the May 4th event, U.S. soldiers fired Stinger missiles at aerial targets and some missed, streaking out over the water. In a 2023 Balikatan, U.S. Army HIMARS fired 6 rounds at a target ship and failed to score a hit. Newer testing by Lockheed Martin, however, has shown that the precision strike missile fired from HIMARS can hit moving ships at sea over 200 miles away. Drones were everywhere. All nations are looking at more unmanned systems. China was watching closely. According to the South China Morning Post, the People's Liberation Army's Southern Theater Command said its naval fleet had recently held drills east of Luzon. The command said the moves were a necessary action taken in response to the current regional situation. USNI News reported that China sent Task Force 107 east of Luzon during Balikatan. The aircraft carrier Liaoning and a Type 075 landing helicopter dock were also reported in the South China Sea. Pressure on multiple sides at once. That the deployment of NMESIS can spark a powder keg for Beijing and asymmetric deterrence for Manila and Taipei in the Bashi Channel along the Luzon Strait. The word Balikatan means shoulder to shoulder in Tagalog. For decades, the drills focused on training Philippine troops to fight insurgents and terrorists at home. This year, the focus was different. As General Clark told Defense News, the focus has shifted to large-scale combat operations and territorial defense. That shift was visible in every part of the May 4th drill, from the way air, sea, and land assets fired together in a single-linked network, to the way 4 flags stood next to each other in the sand at the end of the day. For the Philippines, the message was clear. The country is no longer relying only on diplomatic statements when its waters are pressured. It is testing real capabilities with real partners on its own soil. For Japan and Canada, joining live combat training in the Philippines was a major step. For the United States, Balikatan was proof that its alliance network in the Indo-Pacific is growing, not shrinking. And for everyone watching from across the water, the picture was simple. The beach at La Paz sand dunes is no longer just a quiet stretch of coastline. It is now part of the new front line of Indo-Pacific deterrence.
Yeah, certainly with 80 years of bilateral relationships, this is just another step forward in that relationship between our two militaries.